Good morning. It is 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, July 4th, 2019, Independence Day. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. So, 4th of July, it's a thing. I am home today, and tomorrow, but still technically have some work-related stuff to do, so they're not totally vacation days for me. I got some stuff I need to take care of that's been put off. So working from home today and tomorrow, but hopefully I will get everything I need to do done. And so it is the 4th of July, and so this just has me certainly thinking even more about, well, so here's the thing. I don't often use these videos to talk about like politics, but certainly the idea of talking about the 4th of July can't help but raise the question of current headlines about like the big parade that's happening. And yeah, so, you know, I don't talk about politics on these videos very often. But just in case anybody is unclear about my position, I am disgusted and horrified by just about everything that the current president does. And although the idea of using the 4th of July to try and celebrate the things that are great about America is certainly, I mean, sure. Except that the problem seems to be that none of the things that I think are great about America are the same things that the current executive thinks are great about America. And certainly, hey, look, we got a bunch of tanks is not the sorts of things that I think of when I say what is great about America. There are some things. But it's harder to keep those in mind lately. I try to not despair about the future of our country, but certainly there's a lot of stuff that happens that's pretty disheartening. And so I'm hoping that one of the way too many different candidates for, Democrats campaigning against the president will emerge triumphant. I'm going to do some things that what I can do in order to see what I can do to help about that. You know, contributions and voting for sure. But in the meantime, I'm left today thinking about what does it mean to reflect on Independence Day for the United States. And one of the things that I guess that has occurred to me at various times over the years is shows like Hamilton, and I rewatched Mr. Smith Goes to Washington recently for the Watching 100 Movies podcast. And one of the lessons that I think is important to take from some of those things is the recognition that although there is definitely a tendency for us to look at whatever our current circumstances are and take the attitude of, oh my gosh, this is the worst things have ever been. It's never been this bad. Things are just getting worse and worse, and there's nothing to be done about it. If only we could get back to those good old days, except of when exactly do you mean? And I mean, that applies on both sides. Like the whole Make America Great Again thing is like, when do you mean? When are you thinking about when you say great again anyway? So the point, though, is you study like the politics of the Revolutionary War and early nation period, or even the 30s, where Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is taking place. And a lot of the same problems happened back then. And I don't want to make that sound like I don't think that our current problems are bad, because they sure are, but I guess it's just a matter of perspective that there have always been problems, and it is in many ways the nature of human beings as groups that there are going to be people who are just going to do everything they can to take everything they can get and keep it for themselves, and that it is going to always be, in any attempt to try to do good for large numbers of people instead of just being selfish, is always going to be fighting against the tide. It is never, ever, ever going to be a fight that is won and resolved, because we're fighting against parts of our own nature. And that doesn't mean we give up the fight, but it just does mean we have to put in perspective, this is never something we're going to be able to cross off the list and say, well, that's done. Now we get to live in a utopia. I don't think that's ever going to happen, because it's just we're fighting against our nature. So what it just means is to get disheartened about the state of that fight is understandable. And yet we have to just kind of do what we can to stay in it, because, you know, the tide's not going away. So if we don't keep fighting it, no one will. So anyway, I don't know. I'm speaking in platitudes and stuff now, but I guess I just sort of, that's what I have in mind, you know, this Independence Day. If I want to think about what does make America great, I will want to think about part of what makes America great is that there are people, I'm not alone in thinking how awful our current president is, and that there are people who are trying to do something about it, that believe in systems that are in place and are going to try to use those systems to change things for the better. So anyway, I'll leave it there, and I will talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.